Hello, good morning. Check my mic's on, it is on. Yeah, you should be able to hear my dulcet tones, hopefully. Okay, my little series is turning into a mammoth series, really. My series is called My Thoughts. I have 3 more in. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll take Ricky Stanley, and he says, Bro, what's your thoughts on the pyramids and how they were built? And also the moon landing, do you believe that we actually went to the moon? Now, my thoughts on the pyramids, obviously I don't know, they're just my thoughts. I saw a documentary many years ago about Stonehenge, how they built that, and I believe that the pyramids would have been built in exactly the same way, and that is pulley systems and ropes and logs, trees to roll the stones. People say that man couldn't have built it because each stone can weigh up to a ton. There was no jobs or anything in them days, and if you got 1,000 men pulling on a rope, you could lift 100 ton. So I believe they were just man-made things, obviously. For what reason, I've no idea, but I believe either the ground was sacred or the structure was sacred for whatever reason, or both. Did they build that as a kind of a temple, something like that? So the land would have been a very sacred, spiritual piece of land to them, and they wanted to put something on there. Yeah, much the same as, I suppose, Stonehenge or Silbury Hill over in England, or loads of places. So I don't believe there's a lot of fascination really with the pyramids. For me, it doesn't hold a lot of fascination. The Bermuda Triangle holds loads of fascination, but yeah, the pyramids don't really work for me. I can't say a lot about them because I have no thoughts on them really, but I believe they were man-made, and I would believe a pulley system and ropes and logs and trees and also counterweights, just in my mind right now, if you've got 2 tons, if you've got a ton weight and another ton weight, and you threw a rope over something, say you started to build the structure already, so you built surely you could just rock one and the other one would lift. And if there was 100 men to push it on the lip, then you push that one out and that one goes up 2. They push that one out and that goes up 4, like that. So would the rock, the stone, whatever, would that climb virtually on its own? Just with a few men pushing it on a type of a pulley system. Who knows? I don't know. But I have no real interest in the pyramids, if the truth be known. So thank you, Ricky Stanley. I will also do the second one very quickly now, because he said, also the moon landing, do you believe that we actually went to the moon? That's a funny thing. I was 7 when I saw the moon landing, when it was on the news or on television and all the rest of it. So obviously I believed, yes, we went to the moon. I had no reason to disbelieve it. I was a 7-year-old boy. This grainy, crappy old black and white film of a man going to the moon. And I presume, because I don't know and I can't remember, I presume after that there would have been programme after programme after programme. There would have been interviews with the astronauts. It would have been on the news. Even Blue Peter or Magic Roundabout or somebody somewhere would have mentioned it. So that would have been drummed into me anyway, that we went to the moon when I was 7. So I had no reason to think otherwise then. Now the first man-made object to land on the moon was 10 years prior to that, and that was the Russians. So really the Russians were the first people to get something touching the moon. And that's, people don't really know that. They think the first spacecraft or the first anything on the moon was the Apollo, whatever number it was, I can't remember, when I was 7. And it wasn't that at all. Many countries have been to the moon, or they've tried to go to the moon and all the rest of it. But did we go to the moon? Did we land on the moon? And if not, why not? What's the conspiracy? What's the... why have we created this thing that's false, if not? So there's two camps, isn't there? Either yes, we went on the moon, everything we saw is 100% and that's the end of it. Or you can look at things and they can debunk all sorts. I remember seeing something about the flag. The flag wouldn't unfurl correctly and it's got a kink in it. And they said, oh, it shouldn't have moved. There's no gravity, no air, no nothing. But there are such things as solar winds, so perhaps that had something to do with it. But I remember seeing something, somebody said that there was a mechanical thing in the flag to make it look like it was going to move. Now, whether that's true or what, I don't know, because you're told all sorts. I think ultimately, the more you believe it, the more you can see stuff of the truth of we landed on the moon. The more you disbelieve it, the more you can see the fake stuff that we didn't land on the moon. And the more you watch, the more you see, and the more confused you get, which of course that's the whole idea of everything. So if none of it happens, why did they fake it? Well, the theory is that they wanted to beat the Russians to the moon. They didn't beat the Russians to the moon because the Russians had already landed an object on there, as I said, 10 years previous to that. However, they did beat the Russians as a man standing on the moon. So that's fair enough. But would the Russians have been bothered? They've already landed an object on the moon. If they were worried about this space race, they could have sent something bigger, faster, quicker, for longer on the moon, brought back more material. We know what the Russians are like, you know. They could have, it could have been a massive thing, but they decided not to. So they weren't that interested, I don't think. So I don't believe this space race, you know. I really don't believe in all that. Yeah, I don't think that's par for the course, really, at all. There's a lot of interesting things, really. I've seen documentaries and things. I did see one where one of the astronauts, as he moved, there was a bubble came out of his something on his space outfit. What do we want to call that? Astronaut's garb or whatever. There was a bubble and it came out and it clearly floated away. And that is quite fascinating because, yes, okay, it could have been filmed in slow motion underwater. It could have. But could there be something else, some other reason for that? You know, was there just moisture? Did he get warm? And this thing just appear on the outside? Was it a kind of a condensation or something, you know? And perhaps if we went to the moon, would we walk around all day with these bubbles flying off us all over the place? Don't know. Some say that's proof that it's fake. I don't think there's a lot of proof that there's fake, but also I don't believe there's a lot of proof that we actually went, to be honest. So I sit in both camps. That's my thoughts on it, really. I do sit in both camps. Probably I sit more in the camp that we did go because of my conditioning and the year that I was born. The interesting thing is they went to the moon when I was 7. So, you know, you've got no reason to disbelieve anything. But people of my age will believe that we went to the moon. However, people of 25 or 30 of the internet age, a lot of them don't believe we went to the moon because of all the research that they can do. Obviously, we, as children growing up, we had none of that sort of thing. We had no access to any kind of research. They just played it on the telly and said, this is fact. That's it. So we would strongly argue at my age that we went to the moon. Strongly argue. But somebody 25 perhaps would strongly argue that we didn't, because they got all the facts now in front of them. You know, we're told that the moon is a certain distance away, and now we're not quite certain about that. So I don't know whether that's anything to do with anything. For me, I've seen a lot, and my overriding thing that I keep getting in my head is the space, whatever you want to call it, shuttle thing that landed on the moon made no impact. Now apparently it used thrusters and engines and motors, so I think it would have blown up some moon dust, I believe. Apparently the moon is like a rock with a few meters worth of sandy dust on it. The four prongs, the four legs, just rested so gently on top of all this sand, and remained there for the period that the astronauts were bouncing around and doing their own thing and what have you. But interestingly enough, I saw something and they said, because it's zero gravity, that anything lands on the moon wouldn't make a mark anyway. Is that right or wrong? When Neil Armstrong jumped out of the thing, he made a footprint, and he said that's one giant step for man and blah blah blah, you know. That footprint is there today. It's still there today. Now that gets rid of the solar winds and movable flag, doesn't it, if the footprint is still there today after all them years. But if he, as a man weighing 11 stone or zero gravity, if somehow he made a footprint on the moon and yet the spaceship didn't, the space shuttle, the space, pardon me, the capsule, whatever, didn't, I struggle with that so much, you know. And I've looked at videos and I've looked at photographs and what have you, and the area underneath these huge thrusters is totally flat and smooth. These four-legged prongs, these sort of gold prongs, are just resting gently, so gently. They didn't even go down, not even a quarter of an inch. Man does, when man steps on the moon, they step down into this stuff, this powdery, sandy stuff. They used a space buggy, didn't they? And if you look at that and you see all the tracks and all the dust coming up and all the rest of it, so everything apart from the space shuttle left its mark. It's something wrong there, and I don't know what it is. So it's an interesting one, really. Ultimately, obviously, it doesn't matter whether we went to the moon or not. It really doesn't matter. I'm not interested either way, really. But it's a funny thing, isn't it? If we didn't, you think of all the people that have been involved in it and have lied over it. You know, you had maybe 200 people sat watching these little screens. You had people building the spacecraft or the engine or dials or windows, spaceman's gloves, boots. If we didn't go to the moon, all these people wouldn't have been in on the secret. There was no need to tell all these people. So it would have only been a handful of people that knew that it was some film plot in Nevada or in the desert somewhere or something. There would only been a handful of people that knew the truth. And all these years later, they would have been, you know, they all passed away, or most of them would have passed away. And all the rest would have just believed what they were told. You are making a spaceman's glove, they would have said to the woman. Oh, okay, she would have said. And she told everybody, I made a spaceman's glove. Now, she doesn't know whether that spaceman wore it on the moon or in some film set. She doesn't know. So not many people, you know, the reason why I'm saying that is when you argue about the moon landing, people say, what, so millions of people knew about it and they're all in on it. No, they're not in on it. Why would they be in on it? They watched a screen, they watched this rocket go up to the moon, or did they? They watched maybe a pre-recorded film of something, doing something, and it was so grainy and rubbish anyway, and it was filmed like this. So you don't know whether the thing even left the planet or the studio or whatever. You don't even know if it even left 1 inch. So I don't know. I don't know what I believe about it. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what anybody believes about it. You know, we're told that we went to the moon. And really, that's kind of good enough for me, really. Because in my little minds, my 7-year-old minds, I was quite excited. Men went to the moon. That's it, really. So, Ricky Stanley, thank you very much. Cheers. Take care and be well. Ta-ra then.